Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Chu Yang here, bringing you another video. And this time we'll be discussing about how to get the deal you want, especially when shopping for cars. This video is not really applicable to new car sales because new car, there's generally not much wiggle room to begin with. The prices are all pretty much set in stone by the headquarters of that particular dealership or the dealership themselves. Everything is pretty much standardized, so there's not much wiggle room as you would expect there. So instead we'll be talking about the recon industry as well as shopping in the used car market, also known as grey imports and pre-owned cars, right? I've done a video about the recon car industry, introducing what it is, what advantages as well as disadvantages in another video, link down in the description below. From my experience working in and being in the luxury retail industry I've worked for hotels, so pretty much it is the epitome of service line, and I see a lot of negotiations go down, not all of which end pretty as you might expect. And there's just a lot of things that we can learn from these past experiences to bring into the next negotiation. And negotiation is a wonderful thing. You get what you want, they get what they want, you leave happy, they leave happy. In this video, I'll be covering 3 major things that you can do to negotiate better for the next car deal versus 3 things lesser known, or you can say little tidbits, right? The rule of thumbs to keep in mind when you're negotiating for the deal. So item number 1 is to look at the business itself, study the business, learn about the business. Where are they located? Are they located in the city center? Are they located in the suburbs? Are they in Penang? Are they in KL? Are they in Johor, Malacca, or so on and so forth? Now, this is important piece of information because that generally tells you how the dealership, how's their operating expenses. Like if they're in the city center, crowded street, downtown, where it's happening, it's bustling, that usually will tell you that their operating expenses are high, be it rental, be it property costs. So that will already set a certain context for you when you're approaching them for negotiation. Usually you can't get very far. A business still needs to keep their overheads in check. Other things that you can do is to study the company profile. What are they? Who are they? The company values. So that's also another important thing to look out for. If they position themselves as a premium dealer, as a prestigious dealer that deals in high-end, very valuable, very rare goods, then that probably doesn't seem like you can get a lot of leeway versus someone who's aiming for conventional or more commercial value, high volume turnover. They need to sell X amount of cars per month to keep their store running. So people like that, dealerships like that, are more willing to let go of their cars because they just really need that certain amount of turnover for their car to go. Now, building on that point, what you should know about your dealer is whether or not they are independent or they are corporate. Corporates, normally, if they're a larger business, their discounts are more set in stone, as we've covered. Similar to buying a new car, they have strict SOPs, they have a strict range of prices they can allow customers to buy, and that usually doesn't result in much wiggle room at all. Whereas for the independent companies, then it's much easier to get hold of someone upper in the hierarchy where they can allow or they can authorize a certain amount of discounts. Compare and contrast with the corporate world, it's much harder to get, it takes much longer to get as well. So not to say that you can't get a big discount at corporate, it's just a little bit harder, takes a little bit longer, and yeah, you do with that information what you may. The last point is whether or not that particular dealership has a lot of facilities. So a place like ours in Drop Top, where we have a running cafe to serve all our clients, to serve you if you buy a car from us. Whenever you come, it's like 5-star service every single time. You know, be on point. What's their car number? What car did they buy? How long ago? Ask if they need service. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot to cover, especially if you want to venture into a very high experiential 5-star service, that kind of hospitality or that kind of service. Facilities play a big role in operating expenses as well, and whether or not the car you're buying from has after sales coverage, warranties, is it 3 months, is it 6 months, is it 1 year, or is there just no warranty at all? So that will give you a little bit of idea. Those previous 4 factors will give you a little bit of idea of how much value you're getting from the business versus the monetary discount, right? Value and monetary discount to me is very, very different thing. So that's just to keep in mind. You have to be the judge for yourself, as well as service, as well as facilities to service your car, as well as the proper professionally trained people to let you know what your car has and doesn't have. So there's a lot of variance that goes in there, and not all discounts come in the form of money. They could come in value as well. Second point, it's important. Why? Because it involves homework, and this homework involves asking yourselves some questions. You need a little bit of self-awareness. What does this homework come in the form of? It comes in the form of understanding the product you're going to buy has a high degree of customization, has a high degree of variance. So you need to sort of understand what you're trying to buy. Already tells you some information. For the expensive one to justify its price, it needs to be a very, very special. They come with such high degree of customization, especially the upmarket. The more upmarket you go, the more degree of customization there is. Of course, too much influences its value a little bit. You know, if you're talking about a one-of-one with your name engraved on the big bonnet of the car, that's probably not going to sell very well. But if you're talking about just a high-spec standard car, then you have to do a little bit of homework for that brand and for that product. Understand, let's take for example the Porsches, Carreras. There's such a high degree of customization and spec for each car that we always tell our customers there's no 2 Porsches that we can get are the same in the world. Yeah, no 2 Porsches in the world are the same. That came out more complicated than it needs to be. Porsches, what basic things are you looking for in a Porsche? 3 things I think is very signature for Porsche is the PDLS, sports chrono package, as well as sports exhaust. You kind of have to have that in modern day Porsche because of all the turbocharged to get really good enjoyment out of it. That kind of needs to have, right? You know the culture of surrounding that car, and to know the culture. For example, any Audi car, the Nardo Grey variant of that car will usually sell for a little bit higher compared to other colors. For Porsche, it might be crayon, it might be based in yellow. Crayon is just a much more signature car for Porsche to get in modern day cars. Supply and demand of those paint, for example. Carrera in aventurine green is much more rare than just a standard white metallic Carrera. So these are the things that you need to understand about yourself as a buyer. Do you want a high spec, low mileage example? Is that what you're looking for? Versus, are you just looking for a car with not much specs? You just want it for the drive, you just want it for the prestige that comes with it? Or do you have a higher expectation? That this is something totally up to the consumer. Neither is good or bad, right or wrong. So it really just depends on you, your requirements, your preferences, and your budget. Now, one more thing to emphasize about that point is that dealerships have no advantage when posting or listing cars for sale with a higher price. They have no advantage when the same car essentially with the same name. For example, Porsche 718, the cheapest Boxster right now is what, 400 plus? Early 400s, you can easily get one, but it doesn't have sports chrono, it doesn't have PDLS, doesn't really have, I don't think it would have sport exhaust. Maybe it has PSM, maybe it has less attractive rims, but that's really up to the buyer. Or are you looking for the most expensive, the most high spec, the most comprehensively spec'd Boxster with a nice metallic paint, PPLS, sports chrono, sports exhaust, PASM, carbon fiber interior, stuff like this? You need to make a judgment call for yourself. After you make that judgment call, you need to know, right? Do your research. How many dealerships in Malaysia have a Boxster in the first place? How many dealerships in Malaysia have a Boxster with your preference? If you want a very, very high-end, low mileage example, very, very comprehensively spec'd, how many dealerships have something like that to offer you? Is it readily available? Is it easily available? If there's none on the market, then you have to probably compromise a bit on this. And number 3 is, this is one of the things that will give you the most mileage for buying a car or negotiating a car, which is you have to ask yourself, am I ready to commit for this new car that I want? Okay, so why is that important? Is because if you are ready to commit. So how do you show commitment? You show it by showing up at the dealership. Of course, during lockdown, this is not really possible. You need to show your commitment so that the other person takes you seriously. Otherwise, they will only report back with the base selling price, not base as in lowest, but the standard selling price that they give to all their customers. And if you're serious about this deal, if you're serious about this car, if you're really, really serious about committing to the car, show your commitment. Show that you are genuine by contacting the dealership, being very straightforward with them, being very honest with them. Tell them, I want to buy this car. Now let's work out the deal together. That's important. That's very, very important. And this is the least amount of effort to show that you are genuine. Of course, further examples involve money. How much of a deposit are you willing to give for the car? How much can you afford to fork up in terms of the down payment? Stuff like this. If you go into territory where discussing about money, especially in person at the dealership, we know how to take you seriously. We know that, okay, so this guy, he's serious. He's dead serious. He wants this car. He's working out the finances. Let's do our best for him. Because in all honesty, the luxury retail market is home to a lot of aspirational buyers that, not to say waste our time, but for sales consultants of the usual attitude, they will think, yeah, this guy is wasting my time, not showing any form of genuine commitment, not showing any investment into the relationship that they're building. Last point I want to put into this category is to never negotiate without being ready to buy. That is a big no-no. That is a big no-no. If you know for a fact that you cannot buy this, you don't want to buy this, you approach the sales, you ask for this and you ask for that, you ask for ding and you ask for dong, and then you ling long here and there, it's a waste of everyone's time. Right? They need to make a living too. We sales consultants, we need to make a living. That's a very frank fact of the world. And if you're not ready to commit, most people will just put you aside and not let you waste their time. So if this is one extreme example, so if you are looking for the deal and you kind of want to commit but you're not really sure, simply just have an open and honest conversation with the dealership. I'm not too sure this is the right time for me to buy, and then they will know how to treat you. They will still treat you with respect, as all dealerships should. They will still treat you with authenticity. The worst thing that happens to people at the dealership is if you negotiate, you go through, jump all through the hoops, the rings of fire, all the hurdles, you worked out everything that that supposedly is needed to seal the deal, and in the end you're like, I think I'm gonna walk out. If you walk out during that point, all the negotiation and all the hard work you've put into negotiating with that car so far has been put to waste, because deals don't last very long. Okay, so important things to know about this point is 3 takeaways. Number 1 is to show commitment by communicating honestly, showing up at the dealership in person. Of course, with now COVID, be mask on, face shield on, take all the safety precautions. Number 2 is working out your finances with a loan. Show them that you've contacted a bank to arrange for a loan. I want a loan for this much, I can afford a down payment of this much. And number 3 is to show that you can afford this car. It's as simple as that.